Hi everyone, in this video we're gonna cover cover letters and what you can do to make an incredible cover letter that's gonna get your resume checked and thrown to the top of the line so that you can actually have a much better shot of getting that job. Sometimes recruiters don't even see the cover letter until after they have a few interview slots left, or they have a few candidates that they want to go back and check their materials on to see if they can make a better decision. So you want to make sure that you have every single edge you have available. That's why you should watch this video till the end, so you know exactly what to do to have a good cover letter and not just an average cover letter, because I've seen advice out there, even on YouTube, that's just very plain, very like meh, and that's not going to get you anywhere. All right, so just before we start, remember to smash the like button so that it helps with the algorithm and other people like you can watch this video as well. That's the only thing I'm asking for this free video. Okay, so cover letter. First off, what is a cover letter? If you're here, you probably know, but some people might be watching not knowing exactly what it is, even though a cover letter has been requested of them. So basically, this is a short letter that you give as an attachment, perhaps on an email, on an application system. Usually when you have an application system, they say, hey, give me the resume, but also give me a cover letter. The cover letter is simply a letter that you do addressing the person who is the hiring manager or the recruiter, in whatever the case is. And what you're doing is you're letting them know how you're thankful for the opportunity to be considered for the position. You can talk a little bit about who you are, why they should see your resume, and a couple other things. At the end of the day, really the point of the cover letter is for them to have a good reason to check your resume, or for you to introduce yourself in a way that you cannot do in the resume itself. The resume shows all of your accomplishments and all that stuff, but it's very hard and dry, right? It's not like your personality doesn't come through it. So that's what you want to do in your cover letter. Now, while I did mention a few things, what you really want to do with your cover letter is, first and foremost, you want to keep it short. You don't want to make something like 2 pages long. You don't want to go like a very small font, like a full, a packed page full of text. That's not what you want to do. You want to keep it short, but you don't want to make it too short. We've also seen things like people putting like 2 lines, hi, to whom it may concern, or something along those lines. I am applying for this position. I'm sure you will find my resume attached. Like, that's not going to help you. That's going to get you thrown into the trash, right? So what do you want to do? You want to make sure that you're doing kind of like half a page or so. I will say at most 4 paragraphs, and I'm going to detail exactly what you need to put in each paragraph. All right, so one of the other things that you need to keep into account is, you can, if you don't know who you're addressing, you can put to whom it may concern at the top. But if you want to have a leg up, you can go even further and do your research. Who are you talking to? Did someone tell you about the position? Did they say in the job description or in the job posting who you will be addressing, or in the application system? Then you can do your research. Maybe if you're applying to a bank, you can go on LinkedIn and see who is the recruiter for the types of positions in that bank, and so you can address them in the letter. You will say, dear Mr. or Mrs. or whoever it may be, right? And address them through their names. That's going to be very powerful and much more well received than if you just put something dry or you don't even address anyone to begin with. Now, what you want to do in your very first line is you want to state your intention of why you are applying to that job, of what you're applying to, right? So you might want to say somewhere along the lines of, I'm writing this letter in order to show my intent of applying to the position of software developer at bank XYZ, or somewhere along those lines, right? So you want to make sure that they know what position you're applying to, because sometimes recruiters or people who go through the resumes, especially for big companies, they don't know what position you're applying to. So that's kind of like a headache. They may not even check your resume until later, and later may never come, right? Versus other applicants who go in, they know exactly what they want, what they're applying towards, and it's very easy to categorize them and immediately shoot them up through the recruiting process towards the next stage. All right, so you want to make sure that you put what position you're applying to. Now, I've seen people who mention something along the lines of, somewhere in the cover letter, mentioning that you are also open to other open positions in the company. I will say you could mention that, but if you do it towards the end and not at the beginning. At the beginning, you want to make sure that you state clearly what is the specific position that you are applying to that is open, that you saw in the job description or the job posting, or if you have a friend or someone who knows you who actually told you about that. This is something else to mention as well. If you learn from the job, not from a job posting, but from someone who knows you, someone in your network, mention that first and foremost, okay? Dear Mrs. Mr. Recruiter or Mr. Recruiter at that company, right? I was approached by Pedro from your company, who is a vice president of XYZ. He mentioned that my experiences might be a really good fit for the role of XYZ at this department. And then you go further. After doing more research on your company, I've decided to apply to the role of blah, 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 blah. Let's say again, like software developer at that company, right? Right, and that's kind of like the first thing, the introduction. That's kind of like you're applying to that role. But again, like if you have a network or you know someone in the company who can vouch for you or whom you have talked to, maybe an informational chat or something along those lines, do mention them, right? Especially if they were the ones who approached you, or even if you approached them, they did mention somewhere along the lines of, oh, you should apply to XYZ. You can mention that, right? That's gonna give you a lot more of an in when you are applying. Imagine the recruiter seeing that and be like, the first sentence after dear Mr. whatever, this person from your company mentioned that I might be a good That's gonna it's gonna be very, very good for your odds of actually making it to the interview stage, right? So that's something that's actually happened to me before as well. So, and I did make it to the next stages. So, okay, let's say you have your cover letter, and if you want a template, let me know in the comments below. I might send one to you. I have a few really good examples that have worked very well at some very, very top companies. So what you want to do is that you address them, be personal if you can, try as best as you can to come up with a name that you can address. Then what position you're applying to. Then what you got to do is, why are you applying for them, right? Why them? Why their company? So you might want to say something along the lines of, I've seen your company that has to do with asset management. Let's say that they manage a portfolio of, let's say, bonds, fixed income securities, and you can go along and say, your company is one of the premier or one of the top. You can even use words that they use in their website. That's kind of like, that's going to resonate with them more easily, right? So I can see that you are one of the premier advisors when it comes to the bond and fixed income markets in the world, and it will be somewhere along those lines, right? You want to say that. And based on my experience in working finance or doing whatever or analyzing the markets, I've always believed that is an incredible service to provide, and this is an amazing environment in which I would love to join the company in such a time of change, somewhere along those lines, right? So you want to sell yourself, not from your achievements part, but from I know that your company is this way, and I know that your company is facing these challenges, and I know that I can add value to it like this. I remember a potential way of saying that is like, maybe you're applying to a bank, maybe they're opening a subsidiary in your country or a new office near you or somewhere along those lines. You could go and say something like that. I can see that you are expanding your operations abroad. I live in this country and I'm applying for a position within that new subsidiary, since I know this locality or this country's economics or whatever much better or very well, and I've been looking to jump into a company as well as yours. Something along those lines. Again, I'm not giving you really good examples right now off the cuff, but that's the idea. You want to sell them on why you are interested in them. All of your achievements, they are in your resume. You will have a very good shot of convincing them in your job interview if the interview takes place. The cover letter is not for you to detail or redetail again what's on your resume or anything like that. You just want to be conversational, short. Again, I mentioned up to 4 paragraphs. They gotta be like 3 sentences, up to 4 sentences each. You don't want like blocks of text of like 8 sentences per paragraph or so. And if you can, you could keep it at like 1 short thing, dear, then the role you're applying to, and then 3 short ones, 3 very short 3 sentence or up to 4 sentence paragraphs, if that makes sense. So again, like the first one, what role you're applying to. The second one, selling them on why you like them, why you're applying to them, making them feel special. Why is that role special for you? Because they are much more likely to take you into consideration if they think that you are applying to them specifically, you want to work with them, and not that you're just applying to 200 companies out there, if that makes sense. And that brings us to the next point, and that is you want to customize your application. You don't want to just send the same resume to 200 employers. You might get a few that get back to you, but that's not gonna be as good. I mean, I've even seen people applying to like 15 companies that they handpicked carefully. They customized the applications towards those, and they got heard back from like 10 or 11 of them in some cases, and that is an incredibly high yield if you consider how few the companies were that they applied to. And that is because they customize their approach from the resume to the cover letter. And that's why I'm telling you, like, if you can find that name so you can address them at the beginning, and then you do a good job of selling them on why you're interested in them, then that's gonna go a long way. Now, what is the next paragraph about? Yes, you sell them about why you're interested in them, but you can't just regurgitate what's on the website and that's it, right? You gotta do a little bit. I mentioned a little bit of this already, but it's kind of like, how do you fit in those roles, right? So you're sold on them, but how can you help them? Now, you could mention something as short as, I'm very sure that my experience in, I don't know, math and economics is gonna be very helpful towards my ability to contribute to this highly analytical role in the future. I've attached my resume as well, so you can check that out. You see, something along those lines. You don't have to go too deep, something short that leads them nicely into watching or checking out your resume, which they very likely will if you did your job very well. Now, that's basically it. Those are kind of like the paragraphs that you want to go over. You could include a very short paragraph about like your main achievements that relate strongly to the role you're applying to, so that even though it's in your resume, you kind of like do it a little bit more conversational and you can put it in there. But if not, you can just leave it that way, right? Something very short. I'm sure my accomplishments and works and background, both educational and from whatever, right? My years of experience in this can be through service and will help me contribute a lot towards the company, right? And that's why I've attached my resume, from which you will be able to verify these things. So again, like, the whole point of the cover letter is just personal, seeing how you write, how you address them, to have a kind of like a first impression of sorts, and to sell yourself in a way that's different from the resume. So that's all you want to do. You want to make sure, and this is the last tip, that at the very end you let them know that you want them to consider you for that role. And then this is where you can actually say, and if they find that you might be a good fit for other roles in their company, because you are already so sold on them, right? And you put that on there on the cover letter, you let them know that you are open to be considered to other potential roles that they believe you might be a good fit for within their company. You can do that at the end, right? And that last tip also has to do with being enthusiastic, right? Like letting your enthusiasm show. And this can be done in different ways. You could demonstrate your knowledge of the industry. You could use words that are stronger than I would like to be considered to work here. No, say something along the lines of, I would love to have the opportunity to join your company at this time of change, or something along those lines, right? To give you an example, I applied to I believe it was a portfolio manager firm, and something along the lines, I believe at the time, interest rates in many developed countries were going up. Central banks were increasing interest rates. Maybe you're not too technical, you don't know too much about this, but the whole point is that I knew a little bit about what was going on in the industry, and I knew that was going to affect their business, because when interest rates go up, basically the securities they sell, the prices go down. So essentially that changes the whole dynamic of how they deal with their clients and the different things that they do, right? And the calculations and everything. So I knew that was going to be something challenging, but a good opportunity as well for them. So I felt like, wow, this is an incredible time. And I mentioned it in the cover letter. So at a time in which most central banks, most developed country central banks in the world are increasing interest rates, being a fixed income or somewhere along those lines asset manager becomes an interesting challenge that I would love to be a part of and join the team and contribute to this great opportunity as a racing or somewhere along those lines. So this did multiple things. It showed my enthusiasm, which is demonstrated by my knowledge of the industry. That's something that's very powerful. If you can do it, that's the best way to do it. And it also showed with strong words like I would love to be considered and join the team in such a moment, right? So it showed enthusiasm. It showed that I knew what I was talking about and that I knew I had done at least a little bit of research to know what was going on in their industry. So it spoke very well of me in that sense, right? So that's basically what you want to do. Again, I could show you a template, but I believe we'll talk a little bit more about cover letters in the future, and I'll include some B-roll into this videos going forward with regards to like a resume. I'll show you the resume, or I'll show you the cover letter. We'll do that. All the samples, all the templates, we'll do that later. But if you want it, just comment below and let me know. I can send one to you. All right. So if you've come this far and you haven't done it already, remember to smash the like button, subscribe to this channel, and hit the notification bell so you know whenever a new video comes out. All right.